Hey guys, how you doing? We got another update here. Just something I think you guys should know about. I had a person comment on my previous video stating that, they like the channel a lot because I don't tell you guys what to think, and that's because I don't have all the answers. And my experience with something could be something completely different for somebody else. Whoever's watching, whoever's listening, I try to provide information. And I give my opinion on things. I'm not saying I don't give my opinion, because I do. But there's certain things that are happening in the world that I find, really important that I just don't see the mainstream media talking about. And I personally don't think they talk about certain things because it doesn't fit their narrative and their agenda. It's not good for their ratings. It's not good for the agenda that they try to push. And at that point, I feel like it's up to us to discuss things and be open with each other and share different ideas about what's going on with a certain situation. But regardless, what we're seeing right now is we're seeing some massive Navy drills happening between the United States, India, and Japan. And why I believe this is important is because, one, China, the big number one priority to these exercises, and even the U.S. Navy's coming out and saying this, it's a strategic message to China. There's a lot going on in the region, especially with the South China Sea, especially with the current standoff that's happening between India and China in the Chicken's Neck. And also what we found out earlier today, India and Pakistan, because it looks like Pakistan and China are warming up to each other pretty well. And so you're seeing more and more lines drawn across the world. All right, I believe World War III is definitely impending. I think at some point, if it would start a month from now, 2 months from now, their start date for this would backtrack months. And so these drills are showing the U.S. is reaching out, making new alliances, hardening old alliances that they've had, and we're seeing the U.S. basically come out and say, hey, China, you're not the only one with influence in this region. You're not. The U.S. has seen China grow as a power over the past decade, and it's scaring a lot of people in the United States. And this is just them kind of saying, hey, guys, listen, you're not the big dog yet in Southeast Asia. We're still the big dog in this region. And with these drills, it's just really not helping relations between the United States and China, and there's a whole lot more than just the South China Sea. There's the impending conflict that could happen between India and China. There's North Korea is a huge deal where many of us know that the U.S. is not going to be able to do anything except militarily. If we throw a military option off the table, they won't be able to do anything to stop North Korea without China's help. China's been that loophole for North Korea. And in this North Korean crisis, we see different things here. Mainstream media pushes so many different narratives. And on one hand, we hear how China's not doing enough, and then the next we hear how China and Russia are on the U.S.'s side when it comes to denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. But I mean, the facts speak for themselves. Just because, in my opinion, and what I've seen, just because the certain officials from China and Russia say, hey, yeah, we don't want North Korea to have nuclear weapons either. The different actions between China, Russia, and the United States are speaking a completely different story here. Where the U.S. says they want strong relations with China, and then they go and sell billions of dollars worth of military equipment to Taiwan. Then they do these maritime drills with India and Japan, all while China and Russia are signing billion-dollar military deals. China is warming up to Pakistan. There's a lot going on here, and it seems like I don't know if it's the leaders of these nations are just not being truthful with each other. They're kind of being two-faced, because it seems like every week there's something new, right? Every week we see China and the U.S. either they're friends and everything's going just fine and we're working together, or the next week we completely hate each other. But at any rate, what we can definitively find out is from what we see. And what we see right now is that these U.S., India, Japan drills that are headed by the USS Nimitz, by the way, that was the aircraft carrier that was off Korean waters when tensions were super high. I mean, their tensions are still super high. But now they're in the Indian Ocean, and these exercises just aren't helping relations. It really makes you wonder, you know, are friendly relations between these three big world powers, Russia, China, and the United States, are they really a top priority? And honestly, from what I'm seeing, I don't think so. I think that this is the U.S. trying to put China in its place, and you know, China kind of pushing back. And we're going to have to see how these exercises, how China responds to these sanctions, because the sanctions that they're going to be putting up towards North Korea, I'm changing the tone a little bit, but the sanctions they're going to put towards North Korea that Nikki Haley is putting towards the United Nations, it doesn't seem like China and Russia are completely 100% behind these sanctions on North Korea. So honestly, situations like this, they offer more questions than they do answers, and it's just something you have to wait on to see how these governments react to these situations. Because, I mean, we know China does not like these exercises. They don't like the U.S. in their backyard. But basically, they have every right to not like the U.S. in their backyard, because if the roles were reversed, the U.S. wouldn't want China in their backyard either. But with everything that's going on, all these live fire exercises, all these different exercises that are happening around the world, and definitely in this region, we're going to have to see how these world powers react. And we're going to have to see how, if any possible way for relations to get back on track between the U.S., Russia, and China, because we don't want any global conflict to break out. But guys, as always, as more information comes out, I'll let you guys know. We'll discuss it. I'll post another video. Make sure you guys check back, because new things happen every single day.